All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Well, we're in the midst of the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft, about halfway, through the proceedings. But, we've seen some shockers so far. And the one shocker that I'm going to talk about right now in my books is the New York Football Giants taking LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers in the first round. Now, yes, some mock drafts did have the Giants pegged to take either Neighbors or Washington wide receiver Rome Undunze. But my question is, why not take the quarterback earlier if you're the Giants? Now, there were rumors about the Giants being willing to or trying to trade up to number three with the New England Patriots to take quarterback Drake May, but the Patriots ultimately decided to take him third overall. Now, when the Giants made their pick at number six, Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy was sitting right there, but the Giants decided to go with Neighbors. Now, for me, conventional wisdom would have had you believing that the Giants would have been taking a quarterback early. So you see this, and it's several different ways that you could interpret it. One of those is, are the Giants going to commit to Daniel Jones long term? I'm not sure because they still have an out on his deal after this coming season. But it's one of those where, to me, I thought this draft right here, would have been the perfect segue for the Giants to say, "Hey, you know what? Let's go out there and get our quarterback of the future." And the reason why I say that is Daniel Jones is not that guy. I've said it before, and I will say it again. In parts of 5 seasons as a Giant starting quarterback, Jones's record is 22-36-1. Of course, he had his best season in 2022 when he went 9-6-1 and helping the Giants get to the postseason and, of course, win a playoff game. But that was a walk year for Daniel Jones. And the other thing is this, Jones did a lot of that off of the strength of, running back Saquon Barkley, who is now with the Philadelphia Eagles. I said it before and I'll say it again. The Giants paid the wrong guy last year when they paid Daniel Jones. Couldn't come to the long term deal with Saquon Barkley. And of course, I still believe that the Giants are paying for that move. Now, with that said, Malik Nabers does fill a need for the Giants because they have lacked a playmaker at the wide receiver for quite some time. You got to go back to the last season for Odell Beckham with the Giants in 2018 when they had a wide receiver reach 1,000 yards. New York, passing wise, has been one of the worst teams in the National Football League in recent years. But I'm not just going to peg all of that on the wide receivers. I'm also going to peg some of that on the quarterback. Daniel Jones has been consistently inconsistent, and this is why I do believe the Giants missed the mark tonight, in my opinion, as far as not going out there and getting that next guy. Maybe Joe Shane did not feel like taking J.J. McCarthy at number six, feeling that would have been too high for him. Clearly, the Minnesota Vikings didn't think that as they swapped with the New York Jets to take McCarthy 10th overall. Nonetheless, I think, if you're the Giants, I said this before and I'll say it again. I feel like this draft right here is going to be a make or break draft for Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll more than Joe Shane. And the reason why I say that is general managers typically tend to get longer, okay, at their positions than the head coaches do. And we know Joe Shane and Brian Daboll inherited Daniel Jones. They did not select him, and they still have not taken their guy at the quarterback position. And I feel like this would have been the perfect opportunity for the Giants to do so. You could have said, well, maybe they take the wide receiver and then try to trade back in the round number one to get a quarterback, but that is clearly out of the window now, as we saw six quarterbacks taken in the top 12. And of course, the apple cart was upset when the Atlanta Falcons decided to make the surprise move and take quarterback Michael Penix Jr., of course, Minnesota saw that. They traded up to get J.J. McCarthy. And then, of course, we just saw the Denver Broncos take Bo Nix. So that is out of the equation right there. I look at it like this, so far, Joe Shane's drafts have been solid. Okay. But still, in this current era of the National Football League, you need that quarterback if you are going to win. The Giants still don't have that quarterback. With Daniel Jones under center, of course, the Giants were not even close to the Philadelphia Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys in that division. Those are the two teams that they got to go after. And now you look at the Washington Commanders, of course, second overall. They got their guy for the future tonight in Jaden Daniels. So right now, uh, some people might agree with what I'm about to say. Some people are going to disagree. It is all good, but the Giants right now have the fourth best quarterback in the NFC East, and in my opinion, that is going to be a problem. Yes, the Giants did make some good moves to beef up their team this offseason. I like the acquisition of Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers to go along with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau as far as getting to that quarterback from the defensive side of the ball. That's tremendous for them right there. Losing Saquon Barkley was big because it's one of those where I know anybody like it clearly you don't want to give a running back a lot of money, but at the end of the day, he was a leader. He was a heart and soul of that team. And of course, now you just didn't lose him. You lost him to a division rival. And still, there's still too many questions about Daniel Jones. Like I said before, he is consistently inconsistent, and you cannot have inconsistency at the quarterback position in the current National Football League if you want to go out there and win. TFX, what's going on? Long time not hearing from you, but you're saying no quarterback for the G-men. I'll tell you like this. I don't know who's more surprised about that, you or I. It's one of those. It could be a coin flip right there. You're saying, I guess Shane was telling the truth when he said that Jones was his guy. He needs glasses. Listen, I'm with you on that one. I just don't believe in Daniel Jones. Okay. And it's one of those, maybe he can prove me wrong this year, but at the end of the day, I highly doubt it. I have seen enough of Daniel Jones to playing quarterback to know that he is not the guy, not only for the New York Giants, but not the guy to be a starter in the National Football League. Sometimes it's better to draft and move on from a guy too early than too late. And I think right here, the Giants are probably going to try to move on from Daniel Jones too late, and that is not a good thing. We saw this last season where the Giants, for the most part, were primed to be to get a top five pick, but of course they started winning some games down the stretch, and that put them out of that category. And one has to wonder, well, if the Giants didn't win some of those games last year, maybe we're having a different conversation right now. But at the end of the day, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. TFX, you're saying go Knicks. I haven't checked on the playoff games in the NBA right now as I've been focused on the NFL draft tonight. But for me, this definitely was a shocker. Again, Malik Nabers does fill a need for the Giants, but the Giants have so many needs. And for me, I felt like, this is a very deep, wide receiver class. Okay. And it's one of those where you could probably still get quality pass catchers in rounds 2 or 3. This is why I thought it was important for the Giants to go out there and get their franchise quarterback now and still come back and get some quality receivers later. The kid, what's going on? If we're still questioning if Daniel Jones is a guy in his sixth season, that means it's time for him to go. Well, I'll tell you like this, it's time for him to go. Because for me, you go back to last offseason. Okay, the Giants were faced with, do we, franchise Daniel Jones? Do we try to, sign Saquon Barkley, vice versa? And remember, it came down to the 11th hour before the Giants and Daniel Jones came to an agreement on that deal. And I don't care what anybody says. I felt like Joe Shane had to be convinced to give Daniel Jones that contract. And if you have to be convinced to agree to something, that means that's not your guy. If you have to be convinced on purchasing a car, if you have to be convinced on purchasing a house. That vehicle and that house ain't for you. And it's the same thing with the quarterback. And I really thought that this was the perfect out for Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. It's one of those things like this. If you mess up on your top 10 pick, okay, it sets your franchise back for quite some time. And that is an issue that has been a big issue that has plagued the New York Giants for quite some time now. They have consistently missed on their first round picks. It's one of those where I think the Giants got caught up in taking the best player available in Malik Nabers, which is fine. But generally, if you're picking in the top 10, you have needs and you have several needs. Yes, wide receiver was a need for the Giants, but it was not the biggest need. I really feel it was quarterback. And for me, I know that some people are going to say, well, JJ McCarthy didn't put up the stats. Okay, but he had the intangibles. He won games. Okay. And it's one of those where I thought he would have been perfect for the Giants system under Brian Daboll. And I'm like, you know what? You get your quarterback and then you fill in the boxes later. Like I said, deep wide receiver draft. You could have come back and gotten a quality wide receiver in round two. But now you've got to go into day two of the draft tomorrow and all of the quote unquote guys who might have been taken in the first round at quarterback are off of the board. I know that the Giants did work out several other quarterbacks as well. But again, in this day and age, if you don't have that quarterback, you're not winning in the National Football League. So Malik Nabers was the best player available. I think he does fill a need. I'm not trying to sound like a broken record here, but I still think that the Giants missed the ball in not taking a quarterback tonight. And I'll tell you like this: I'm going on record right here. This is April 25th, Thursday, April 25th of 2024. You can mark it. The Giants will be picking in the top 10 next year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And at some point, it's only a matter of time before Brian Daboll gets tired of Daniel Jones at quarterback. I thought it would have been this year. Apparently not. How much uh, stroke, if you will, did the Mariners have in this and the Giants not going with the quarterback here? I'm not sure. But nonetheless, I do think that the Giants missed the ball tonight. Let's see what they can do in day two and day three of the draft as they look to fix their situation heading into next season. But right now, as a guy who watches football, I'm just not optimistic about the Giants next season due to their inconsistencies at the quarterback position. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. TFX, as always, it was a pleasure. Thanks for dropping some comments. And the same goes for the kid as well. I'll tell you like this. I'm going to try to get back on here tonight at the conclusion of round number one. I've got a lot to say as far as what is going down. A lot as far as the quarterback position goes. But nonetheless, it's the ups and downs, the ins and outs of the NFL draft. We're about halfway done with round number one. So let's see how the rest of this thing plays out. But until then, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off and saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.